Good evening, it's meteorologist Michael Fecca. Welcome back to the 9 p.m. all-weather, all-streaming show that we do here every night during the workdays and on weekends. We stream it out to all of our streaming platforms as well as to Facebook Live. So if you are joining us from Facebook and you have any questions, comments, or concerns, please feel free to leave them down below. I'll be able to hopefully address them as I go through the forecast, but if not, I'll go through at the very end and see if I can answer or address anything individually for you. But let's get started here. Of course, we're going to start off with our headlines. So what are we keeping an eye on over the next couple of days? Well, unfortunately, our nice stretch of dry weather for the first half of this week is going to come to an end beginning tonight. So right now we're dry. We had a few sprinkles over southern Illinois a little bit earlier, but now we are still expecting some showers and thunderstorms to be moving in mainly after midnight tonight and into the pre-dawn hours of Friday. And then they're just going to continue on and off throughout the day on Friday, and then likely linger through the weekend and even into next week. So a little bit more of an unsettled weather pattern starting to take shape for us here over the next week or so. But let's take a look at our setup. So right now we have high pressure that was over the tri-state the last couple of days, which is why it was so nice this week. But now it has slipped off to the east over to the Delaware, Maryland, Virginia area, and that has allowed this area of low pressure to lift up from the deep south and is now going to spread in some of those scattered showers and thunderstorms beginning tonight, and then this low will very slowly push its way eastward as well through the tri-state over this weekend, which is why we have those lingering chances for showers through this weekend and then more pop-up type thunderstorms in the afternoon once we get into next week, because this system is likely going to leave a frontal boundary draped over the area or near the area, and so that always is a cause for ignition points for a couple of pop-ups, especially in the afternoon. But here's a look at our radar a little bit closer here to home. Again, you can see it's mostly dry out there across the tri-state. It was a dry evening there, perfect for Henderson. That's where they were doing the WC Handy Blues and Barbecue Fest. So hopefully any of you guys were able to make it out there. Let me know how it was. Hopefully it was great. If you haven't been able to get out there, hopefully, the rain can hold off for a period of time for tomorrow so that you can still get out and enjoy it. But unfortunately, our luck is running out here. We do have showers that are beginning to build off to our southwest. Highs today worked all the way up into the upper 80s. 87 degrees was our high in Evansville, 88 there in Bowling Green, topped out right around 90 in Nashville, and into the lower 80s up towards Indianapolis. So right now we've cooled down a good bit, about 10 degrees, 76 here in Evansville, 81 in Owensboro, so one of the warmer spots on the map. And it looks like Jasper may be picking up on a little bit of a sprinkle there with 77 degrees right now. So again, most of us are dry right now, and we'll stay dry at least for the next couple of hours, but really once after we get past midnight, 2, 3 o'clock, that's when we could start to expect more showers and storms to move in. Temperatures will stay relatively warm as well, only cooling down into the upper 60s to right around 70 degrees, and then tomorrow will only warm back up into the lower 80s. But here's what we're tracking out through the overnight hours. So here we are at around 2 a.m. We've got this, downpour / thunderstorm beginning to work up from southwest to northeast. And then as it moves northward, a lot of the times these showers are going to start to shrivel up. So again, it's more of a scattered chance for showers and storms pretty much all day Friday. However, the models have been very consistent on printing out a little bit of a lull here in the Evansville, Henderson, Owensboro area, right through the heart of the tri-state by around 4, 5, 6 o'clock tomorrow night, before more isolated to scattered showers move in into the evening hours and then continue as we get into Saturday morning. So that is somewhat of a good news. Remember, I know we have those chances for showers and storms every day, but there is still going to be a good amount of dry time through each day. It's just you gotta, hopefully it times out with whatever your plans are. So that's just kind of the pattern that we're heading into there. So hopefully we can stay dry for any events that are going to be outdoors for tomorrow evening, but I would not bank on it. I would plan to have either some thunderstorms or showers interrupting those plans, and if they don't, then you lucked out. So I would still prepare, if you're going to be down at Friday after 5, you hear some thunder, you want to have a way to get indoors, even though we're not expecting severe weather. Lightning in general is still very dangerous. So something you wanted to take into account, but Here's a look at some almanac data now. So now that we've gone through what we can expect tonight, let's go through what we've had so far for the month of June. A lot of it has actually been pretty temperate. We've pretty much stayed in the low to mid 80s, which is right around average for this time of year. But we did have 2 days where we only topped out in the mid 70s, so slightly cooler on the 1st and the 7th. And then in terms of precipitation, we've had an equal share of dry and wet days, but that is going to change here. Once we get into tomorrow, we'll likely have rain measurements for each and every one of these days as we go through next week. So I think while we are below average for our precipitation for the month of June right now, I think we're probably going to make up for it pretty quickly once we get into this weekend and into next week. But while we're in a deficit so far for the month, we are in the surplus by a good amount for the entire year. We've picked up at around 29 inches of rain or liquid equivalent precipitation, and that is putting us at around just shy of 6 inches above where we should be for this time of year. And our average temperature also pretty much on par. We're around 0.3 degrees below where we should be. So everything so far for June is looking pretty normal. And now in terms of what we can expect, as I mentioned before, Climate Prediction Center also highlighting that fact that we could see above average precipitation through the middle of this month there, and we're also looking at the potential for above average temperatures over the next couple of weeks as well. So that is going to continue to signal for more of that, typical summertime, active, humid, dog days of summer kind of pattern there. So there's a look at your rain and storm chances. So again, today was kind of the last dry day. Tomorrow we're going to have scattered showers and storms all throughout the day, and then continuing into Saturday. Now I will say it does look like they decrease in coverage and intensity as we go through the weekend, especially as we get into next week. That's where we're expecting more heating of the day type pop-up situations rather than something that's moving in that we can actually track. So I want to show you what that setup looks like on our longer range European model. So low pressure slides overhead this weekend. That's why we have better chances for rain tomorrow and into Saturday. But then by the time we get into Sunday, we'll actually start to see this system pass off to our east. So we'll have some lingering showers out there, but they might not be as widespread in coverage as they are going to be for Friday and Saturday. So that is at least a little bit of a positive trend for Father's Day that's coming up this weekend. And it also looks like maybe an isolated chance for a shower in Monday afternoon as well, but we do have another disturbance that swings through on Tuesday, so better chances for rain once more. And then again, as we get into Wednesday and Thursday, another cold front swings in. And then it finally looks like high pressure builds back in for Friday of next week, where it looks like that will be, as of right now, the driest day. But again, we're over a week out from that point, so I wouldn't make any promises like that to you with the pattern that we have. So just expect a general unsettledness for the weather as we go through the next week. Again, it's not going to be raining every second of every day, but there is that chance someone gets downpoured on every single day. But looking at our storm risk, while we're talking about a lot of showers and storms, the good news is it doesn't look like we have any real organized severe weather threat. We're pretty much just outlooked for ordinary thunderstorms on Friday, and then again on Saturday. Much of that severe weather risk stays off to our west. Now, talking about this change in the weather pattern, having a lot of rainfall included in the forecast here, I thought it would be a fun time to bring out a couple of explainers here. The first one is, what are the shapes of raindrops? A lot of us, when we think of a raindrop, we think of this classic teardrop shape, which isn't necessarily true in what happens in real life. So what happens in real life is that small raindrops are often spherically shaped. So they're shaped like little balls because they're small enough. They don't have a lot of surface area to get dragged upon by the air. But as they fall, raindrops bump into each other, so then they become bigger raindrops, and that increases their surface area. So now that their surface area has increased, that drag force also increases. And what that does is it actually flattens out the bottom of that raindrop and turns it almost into a hamburger bun shape. And now as this drop continues to fall, it collects more and more water molecules, raindrops, and it gets larger and falls faster, and that continues to put pressure and force right up through the middle of that drop. So what can happen is now it starts to bend and then it eventually splits back up into 2 smaller raindrops again, and then that process just continues over and over and over again until it hits the ground. Now, when those raindrops start hitting the ground, what do we do? Now, I actually want to ask you this, guys. If you want to be a little interactive in the comments, I want to ask you, what do you think is better, to run or walk in the rain? Because there is an answer here. Arden put this graphic together as a kind of fun little equation for us. So if you guys feel like interacting with it in the comments, let me know. Do you think it's going to be better to walk in the rain or better to run in the rain? Meaning, are you going to get less wet or more wet if you run or walk? Well, Arden kind of figured this out for us. So we have several variables involved. We have wetness per second, we've got wetness per meter, we've got our meters traveled, so our distance to a shelter, and we've also got the time spent in the rain. So when you take all of that and you put it together, you multiply your wetness per second by the time spent in the rain, and then you add that to you add wetness per meter times the meters that you traveled, and then you get an equation like this. Now, if you are paying close attention, you may notice that the majority of all of these variables are actually constants. You can't really change how hard it's raining or how far away your shelter is, but you can change the amount of time you spend in the rain. So, what does that mean? What do you do then? Would you rather spend longer time in the rain or a shorter amount of time in the rain? And the answer is you want to spend less time in the rain. So running is actually going to keep you drier than walking. We know that's always just a little bit of a competition people have all the time. People are always like, no, you should walk instead of run, and other people are like, no, I'm running, I don't want to get hit by any rain. But it is actually works out to the fact that you should be running, because the less time you spend in the rain, the less wet you're going to get, and it's just that simple. So hopefully you guys enjoyed that. I see a couple of people saying walk. All right, so now you know, you learned something new today. But that's pretty much all I have for the forecast and the weather show tonight. So here's a quick recap of our 7-day forecasts. We're looking at, again, daily chances for showers and thunderstorms through the end of the work week into this weekend. That also includes Father's Day, but it does look like they become a little bit less widespread for Sunday. So that's good news, maybe a little bit more dry time. And then we'll have that chance for some pop-up afternoon showers and storms each day as we go through next week. But you'll also notice temperatures actually continue to climb. You'll notice we are starting out in the lower 80s this weekend, but we'll actually climb all the way up into the upper 80s to near 90 by the time we get into the middle of next week. And with that, we're also looking at an increase in dew points. So it is going to start to feel really, really muggy as we go through next week. And we may actually have, some heat index values approaching 90 or maybe even above 90 for next week. So definitely feeling like summer has arrived, which, by the way, is also in around 9 or 10 days is the official start of summer there. So right on par for this time of year. And that's all I've got here for the weather show, so I'm going to take another quick look at the comments to see if you guys have any questions for me. Chris says he always gets soaking wet when it happens. Yeah, it's a nuisance, but at least we're not expecting anything severe out there. So that is all I have. I'm going to hop off the live stream. I'll send you guys over to 14 News at 14 News at 10 for all your latest news and weather headlines. Until then, everybody, have a great rest of your night and stay safe.